moving forward. Okay.
I didn't know because I had put on my video just in case.
Okay, it's being recorded now. So Pat, do you know, like, what's the update? What do we need to do, or what do I need to talk to the treasurer about to move forward with the sensor topic?
You know, I don't know. I know that Craig had a conversation with Melanie, and Melanie was the one that said, wait a minute, this isn't the right way to do it. Diana knows more about it too. Maybe she can chip in on this. But apparently there was something about the treasurer has to be involved before something like to go to the board.
Well, two things. One is that it has to go to the finance committee because they have to identify the money and where it's coming from before it goes to the board.
And if they have any.
Yeah. But she also said that there was some additional information that was needed. And I don't know anything about, I've been out of the loop on financial stuff for so long. I don't know exactly what that is.
There's paperwork we have to fill out. We have to put down that we had a discussion at our committee and who voted for what, if they voted yes or no, and how much we need and who we talked to. And we have to have like 2 or 3 people we talk to and all that. And there's a lot of work into it.
I think when I talked to Melanie too, but it was a side topic when I was talking to her. I don't even remember what the topic was. It's probably Target or somebody. Something.
Craig was told that you talk.
Yeah, and Craig had talked to Melanie, and I think that Melanie seemed to be under the impression that what we were doing was buying these particulate sensors for the city. And I didn't have that impression. I guess if city money buys them, then they sort of belong to the city, but we weren't giving them to the city to use, as I understood it. We were going to put them. And the other thing she said is we had to do a better plan for how are we going to use these particulate sensors. My recollection of when we talked about it at the committee meeting, the idea was that we would put them in various locations, people's houses and so forth, and run them for like a month or something, and then tabulate the results and provide the results to the port, but also get some information on our own too.
Didn't Peter have one in his house one time?
Jason has
in his yard or something?
Well, Jason has one, I know.
Oh, cool.
So Jason, what do you recall about the conversation? And we fix it now so that we can get the thing on the road.
Well, I mean, we were going to deploy them in areas that were not covered very well by the public right now, right? So there's not a lot of sensors down by the waterfront or near the port. I have one. I'm probably one of the closest sensors on the map to the port. There's some others in San Pedro, but they tend to be, there's some in coastal and some farther up the hill. So we wanted to get some in the downtown area and some just more port adjacent so we could sense the particulates a little closer to the source. So we had a better understanding of it.
Yeah, we are also in a unique position is that we don't have to be only looking at the port. We can also be looking at the refinery too.
Even as an NP or a community project, I could potentially reach out to Jesse Marquez over with Coalition for a Safe Environment, and if he has 501c3 status, then maybe we could do an NPG or a CIP, and maybe that would make some of the paperwork easier.
Do they have to be maintained, like calibrated every so often?
No.
Okay.
Set it and forget it.
Cool.
I think one of the concerns that Melody raised, if I remember right, was a concern that she thought they were being put on private property, and she thought that was not appropriate somehow. But I think it was because it wasn't explained. There was no good explanation. And the question is, if you do have these, part of what your paperwork will need to say, I think, is how are you going to decide where these are placed and how long they're there, and then what are you going to do with the data? So that you show the whole picture of of the usage and what the benefits to the community will be of the usage, and then they'll be moved around. Would they always be at a member's house? Would they maybe also be at a school? You know, how is this something that's not duplicating what's already being done by the port or somebody else? So I think those are some of the things that were concerns that ought to be addressed in whatever you do.
I can share the map if you allow me to share screen. I think you have to make me a co-host for that.
Okay, I think I made you a co-host.
Yep. So I mean, I can zoom out. You can see the coverage around the greater LA area. These are all sensors that mostly individuals, but sometimes they're at schools or police stations or something. People have purchased to measure the air quality.
What's the red ones? We've got a red in our area.
Red is
not
red.
It.
That's unhealthy. Well, that's orange. It gets worse.
I thought orange was 109 and 120 looks red.
No. See, there's a red one right there. It's a spectrum. I mean, it's not an absolute color. It kind of fades a little bit from color to color. But the darker it gets, the worse it is. Green,
yeah,
through yellow, orange, red, purple. It actually gets to black. I've seen it during some of these wildfires, brush fires, where you just have a black dot, which is basically you take 2 breaths and you're dead, basically.
Let's hope we never see black. Yeah, 120 is darker than 109 a little bit.
You know, that could be the neighbor's fireplace going off and contaminating this, right? I mean,
yeah. Well,
does it tell what contamination it's reading?
No, it tells you what particulates.
Tells you the size of the particulates.
Yeah, this is PM 2.5.
Oh, those are the deadliest ones. Yeah. Okay.
It's a 10 minute running average, and the spot has been, it's at 147 now. It was at 123. So you can see it was lower. So the 60 average is 49.
Well, I have some ideas, or anybody else has some ideas on how we can reformat this thing so we can press it through. I really like the idea of having some, gathering some of this information. It'll help us in a number of ways.
You mean where to put them?
Well, that too, but mostly
some of the justification, right? So someone had mentioned, is the port doing something, and are we being redundant? Well, the port doesn't have sensors in our non-port areas, so it's not redundant from that standpoint. But up until recently, they turned off their monitoring system, right? That just got turned back on this year. So
yeah, and they were going to keep it off. They weren't going to turn it on until people made it stink.
I don't trust the port to be a good steward of our air unless they're forced to.
Right.
So this helps us. This data helps us, provide a history.
I'm looking at the map too, and there's not really a lot going on in our area. That 36 that's there is probably you, Jason.
That's me. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, but around
the ones with black circles around them are indoor sensors, so they're kind of irrelevant for the outdoor area.
Okay.
I think having them at the oil refinery is a good idea. Whoever brought that up.
Well, it's one of the things, and the refinery too. When they do an action and report to us, when they like add some equipment or do something to comply with new regulations, they come back and report to us, and they sample the air, but they stop sampling the air at their boundary of the refinery. At least that's what they've done in the past. So yeah, if we can find some spots, I kind of thought that maybe if we had 4 of them, we could run them for a month at 4 locations, and then move them to 4 other locations, or maybe run them for 3 months at a time or something like that.
What about Paper School? They've been, wanting to work with us a lot.
I'm thinking that if we can find somebody's house where we can put it at a, so it's a secure location, because they cost about what, $250, $280 a piece, something like that. And
somewhere
that,
in the neighborhood.
yeah, and so I think that we need to keep them someplace where we don't get them, don't lose them. And
I'm up on Westmont. You could put my one at my house.
Sure. Yeah,
or my garage.
We got, what do we have, 17 board members? We can certainly, you know, go through the board members first, and then.
And like David Rivera lives closer to me, to like Rancho and the refinery.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea.
We got a bunch of people. Chuck Hart's over in that area. And,
yep.
And
yep.
Craig is on a lookout spot right over the harbor. He might put one on. We'd certainly put one on our balcony outside our bedroom or something, and see what they get.
That would be a good idea too.
Yeah. I guess
the balcony would get good air. Well, the bad air if it gets it.
A good quantity of air, a good sample.
Good, that's what I meant to say, yeah.
Yeah. You know, one of the things I'm thinking about is, it's in the back of my mind about how useful these things can be, is the health monitoring parameters that the port uses, and they look at it's only a significant impact if it increases the cancer death rate by more than 10 per 100,000. And they don't measure the anecdotal, or they don't measure the things that anybody, any doctor at Kaiser will tell you, and that's the number of kids they have who have breathing problems, you know, asthma and other related, you know, chronic bronchitis and things like that. So
and the older people too.
Yeah, and we can start collecting data on these kinds of things, and we can tie it to events, because we know, you know, when things come online or events happen, you know, maybe it's an upset at the refinery, for example, or a new something comes online in the port, or we get a lot of traffic on the freeway. You know, the traffic on the freeway, on the 110 freeway, is going to generate a lot of particulates, because the little particulates come out of the products of combustion, internal combustion engines.
Even also, the trucks.
Also the rubber tires.
Rubber tires.
Really?
Yep.
Oh yeah. Tire scuffings are a big increment of ambient air particles. Yeah, but I guess, you know, look, I mean, we got any volunteers that'll write something up so that we can carry it forward to Melanie's committee and then take it to the board? I mean, that's a decision kind of point. We don't have a quorum, so we can't make a decision unless somebody wants to just do it.
I'll start something.
I'm sorry?
I'll start something.
You want to just, yeah, we can work together, Cynthia. Why don't we?
Okay.
We could do an unofficial poll on which board members might want to host one at their house. That might help.
I think everyone would, actually.
Christian, you know who might be willing to write something up would be Gwen Henry.
We could provide her with the information, collect the information, and give it to her and have her write it then, if you want.
Yeah, she's you know, her committee is called Environment and Sustainability.
Right, but as long as we give her the facts and what we want and why and everything, she could put it all together. That'd be good. Yeah, she might do it. She sometimes attends these port meetings anyway. Yep.
So, Christian, you want to talk to her, or when I get back to town, I'll be willing to talk to her, see if she'd do it.
Yeah, email her. Yeah, that'd be fine. Or yeah, sure.
Okay.
Or I'll call her if you guys are too busy.
Well, I'm very forgetful. I tend to forget things I'm committed to. So
I'll do it then. Okay. I'll call her up tomorrow and just let her know we're doing that and keep in touch with her on it.
Yeah.
But if you get any more information, because I said we'd put it in homes and by the school and the oil refinery and change it like every 4 months. And if we get more information, like who we want to buy it from and how much and stuff, that would help.
Yeah.
And who's going to maintain it? Which, you know, just say somebody's going to watch it and it's safe. We have to know that.
Yeah, I guess that's where Jason comes in because he's got one already. I'm sure he's researched it.
Oh, good.
Because I remember Jason saying there's a bunch of them on the market, and he's got one that cost him, you know, about $250 or so, $280.
Did you buy your own, Jason, for your own home?
Yeah, I like to know when I go running almost every day, and I want to make sure that the air quality is suitable.
That's smart. I know somebody, her mother got really, really sick with emphysema and asthma, and she took her to a doctor in Torrance. And the first thing the doctor asked her is, where do you live? And she said, San Pedro. He goes, oh, okay, right. Of course you're sick. It didn't make me feel good when I heard that.
I have stage 2 COPD, and I don't smoke or anything. So it's
The air's killing us.
It's chronic bronchitis. There's two kinds of COPD, chronic bronchitis and emphysematis type.
That's what she had. Like it wasn't good stuff, and she didn't smoke or drink or anything. She didn't do any of that either.
Well, the PM10s are the standard that the port uses, which are 10 microns in size, and those clog up your lungs. You sometimes can expectorate them, you know, spit them, you know, cough them up or something. Then the PM10, PM8s are bad, but the PM2.5s will pass through the boundary of your areolae in your lungs, and will even pass through the cell walls in your brain too, and lodge in your brain. So it's
wow. Well, great.
Okay, so
okay, that's good. Thank you, Cynthia, for volunteering to help, and we'll get that over to Melanie as soon as we can.
And I'll call Jason and grab some information from him too.
Sure.
Thank you.
Jason, we had on our agenda a topic that Pat said you might know about, and that is the ships, the shipping containers that are out nearby in the harbor, and like the status of them kind of being bottlenecked out there. Do you have any facts on that, or any like updates on that?
Oh, well, I mean, if you can look at the AIS transponders and get a visual idea of how many are there. I don't know particularly what the port, how the processing is going. I mean,
I mentioned Jason in terms of containers being used as housing for the homeless, you know, and I know Jason is where I got the information on the development in the Netherlands. They're pretty big on it. Hey, we have a quorum. Tom Norman signed in.
Good.
We can call this thing to order, and then we can make some decisions.
Yeah, I'll officially call the meeting to order then. It's 6:28, and today we have myself, Christian Guzman, Pat Nave, Cynthia Gonier, Jason Herring, and Dr. Thomas Norman in attendance, all committee members. Thank you for attending. And so, Dr. Norman, I don't know if you mind or not, but we kind of went through public comment. Did you want to make a public comment by chance, or should we continue on?
No, I have no public comment. We can get right into the business. Thank you.
Okay, very good. We did briefly just go over the update on getting sensors. So Cynthia is going to help work on that, and we're going to try to give everything we need to Madam Treasurer Melanie Lebrecq, and then hopefully we'll make some progress on that. And then Jason was just going into the ships that are out in the harbor and sort of maybe talk a little bit about the bottlenecking, because I noticed that they're out there too. If I ever go up on a hill, like I went to Signal Hill the other day to go for a walk, and I see them out there. So just wondering on the process of why there are so many, or the question of why there are so many.
I have something I can report on that.
Okay, go ahead.
I called one of the directors at the port and asked him if he had any news. He said, listen to the last board meeting, to the executive director's report, Gene Soroka's report. He said everybody at the port is working on the problem. And he didn't want to say anything and get misquoted or anything like that. So I did. I listened to the board meeting, And it's, you can go on the port website and get the audio and the video for the January 13th meeting. They said a couple of things that they haven't had to institute the dwell fee, which is a 9-day fee if if you're just using the port terminals for storage, because you don't want to, you can't find a place to, unpack your containers or anything. And they said at the end of 2022, we had 90,000 empty containers sitting on port and terminals or related properties. And it's 72,000 now, which is 20%, 18,000, that's 20% of the 90,000. So they're down 20%, and they thought that they would be at 50,000 by the end of the month. They're still working on it, and that they're doing it in, and it's related a little bit to the backlog of ships. They said Gene Soroka, the executive director, said that what's going on in Asia is that it's been the rule that you can't line up for a slot at a dock unless you're over here. So they've been in a hurry up mode in Asia to get the ships loaded and get over here so that they can get in line for a dock. They said that they are working now to basically put the ships in line from before they even leave, Shanghai or Singapore or Hong Kong or Nagoya or any place else. And that they thought that might smooth out some of the stuff. But other than that, he said, there was like 5 items on the agenda, on the Board of Harbor Commissioners agenda related to backlogs and movement of goods. I didn't find it particularly enlightening in terms of what the demand for land is for container storage or for offloading the ships.
No, I heard in Wilmington that they have some of the containers piled up 12 containers high.
Holy cow.
Yeah, and that's when I first came here, that was considered illegal. I mean, even 3 was dangerous, and they said no more than 5. Now here we do in San Pedro 6, but if it's 12, that's really dangerous.
Each container is 8.5 feet high, so. Well,
if we have a big storm, that could really damage things around people, homes and stuff if it's near homes.
Yeah, blow them over.
Uh-huh.
I just wonder how they get them that high. I mean, do the cranes go that high? 8, I suppose they must.
It's something to follow up on to see if they're really going that high. But even 5 containers high or 6 containers high is a
lot.
Well, it's certainly noticeable if you're doing it. I was concerned in terms of mitigation matters and stuff like that. If the port is using its property next to residences in Wilmington to store containers, that's a way of creating urban blight or suburban blight.
And rats, because rats and other snakes and stuff love those containers. They have all sorts of little places to hide in.
I don't know if the rats are going to the top floor though.
There's a political comment.
Is there a state regulation on how high they can go, or is it a port thing?
Well, it's a zoning thing. This came up in the Gibson container lot thing, because the height limitation on the zoning there was 45 feet, and 5 containers went to 42.5 feet, so it met the code. So I got from that it's a height limitation in zoning. I don't know what it would be on a terminal.
They can always get exemptions though. I was with customs and they used to always try and get exemptions to that.
Hmm. Generally speaking, I mean, the rule of thumb I've always heard anyway is that 10 feet is a story, you know, so if you have 6 containers, that would be 52 and a half feet or 53 feet, something like that, which would be 5 stories high.
Over.
Yeah, a little over.
It's interesting you mentioned, Cynthia, that they get exemptions, right? Because that's what's been interesting in researching this, that, you know, you really don't have policies in place if you just get exemptions for decades and decades on end.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, even the pollution, they get exemptions, you know, they buy it. They buy to pollute our city. And that's, you know, they keep saying they're within regulation. Well, they are, but they're way over as far as particulate matter for our health. But they do it legally because they can buy it. It's really sad. You know, and poor Wilmington's really getting dumped on.
So I know we've talked about having some, you know, more collaboration with the San Pedro neighborhood councils. Should we consider reaching out to Wilmington as well?
I think that'd be great.
Well, Jesse would be good.
Yeah,
He's real good. Sorry, Christian, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think that's a good idea. I haven't spoken to, actually, I think our minute taker, if I'm not mistaken, is on the Wilmington Neighborhood Council. So I could probably speak to her. Her name is Gina Martinez. And then she might be able to point me in the direction of who's the sustainability head or the interested person over there in that neighborhood.
Christian, how about this for an idea? Is to take it to the HANC, the Harbor Association of Neighborhood Councils. I think there's 7 members there, and Wilmington is participating there now. They weren't for a long time, but they are now. And containers and transport through Harbor City has been a problem that they've been focused on. Who is our liaison to the HANC? They can take it there also.
Oh, I believe that the treasurer likes to go, and I'll check with her and maybe Cheryl Ackerblom to see if they still meet on the first. It was either the first Wednesday or the second Wednesday. I think it was the first Wednesday. So then I can ask her to inquire about that in February then.
Gwen might even know.
What if we put those two on the board to do before, so things to do before next meeting, and then report back at the next meeting on those 2 initiatives, Wilmington and HANC. How about that?
Okay, very good. So, Pat, did you want to talk about any of those mitigation measures anymore? Do you have a couple that you think that we should hone into a letter maybe and bring it up in the next month or the next 2 months, or should we just
I'll give you a
progress.
Let me give you a progress report. And you know, when I presented it before, I'd asked, you know, or one of the things I wanted to do was to get feedback from everybody on this committee and on maybe additional ideas of ways that the port has impacted our community, maybe inadvertently, not realizing they were doing it. And so if anybody has anything to add to the 5 that were on the previous list, that would be great. And then I got a report to tell you. I'm gonna go to the Issues Committee on the 25th with a presentation to them. I give a presentation to Planning and Land Use. And then I think maybe Christian, if you think it's appropriate, would maybe do a presentation to the full neighborhood council, and then maybe have them adopt a resolution if they were so inclined, and then start working at getting seeing if other neighborhood councils would support the idea too. Then we'd be in a position to go to the port and say, look, here's some remediation things we'd like you to do. Now the Gibson parking lot was the first time that we put any of these or really the second time. The first time we really stressed particular remediation matters. And if you may recall, there were three things that we had in the comment. One was traffic and the impact on the streets, particularly on Gibson Boulevard from having 466 truck trips a day on the street, and then also they'll come around on Channel and on Gaffey going up to the container packing station up by Westmont. And then utility poles, in addition to the utility poles. So we also put in there, we'd like them to underground utilities. That was one of the comments. And the third one was railroad horn noise, making a quiet zone at the Gibson off-ramp to the freeway and the Gibson entry into China shipping and Yangming. So that's all I really have to report. I think I mentioned before that I kind of had a 3-month process in mind, and I suppose maybe this came out of this committee, so I'd be happy to give an update on it each month, Christian.
Okay, good. I think that the process you outlined would work well, and I encourage you to do so.
We send you ideas, Pat, that we want you to look into?
Absolutely, or so tell me now and put it in writing, because
okay.
I remember better when it's in writing. So, you have one in mind now?
Yeah, I was talking about light pollution. There's a lot of light pollution.
Yeah.
And our health. And then I put down containers. We're talking about containers. Are they going to be taking up more of our land? And if they do have containers, is that permanent or is that, just temporary? And then I put road damage, because some of those things are so heavy, the trucks and the number of trucks on the road and jarring the road all the way up. It's truck damage.
Yeah, that is one of the ones that's on there now, but light pollution is
okay.
Is one we can add. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
I want somebody to say, somebody should start a company to make containers that fold up flat or something like that. I think it's missing an opportunity. Containers were the big revolution starting about 1960 in the ports, to put stuff into the cans and ship them and everything. But they haven't really changed since then. They started out at 20 foot. Now they're up to 57 feet. They've got several sizes of them, but they haven't changed the concept. And the basic economics of things are that we get like 5 times as many imports as we do exports. So you come over here with a full container, and now you got an empty. And who the heck wants to ship it all the way back empty with no goods in it, right? So they sit around here. Maybe if they had made a container, somebody got smart and made a container, or could make a container that they could disassemble and fold up flat, take a lot less room, and they'd be more inclined to take them back on the ships.
We used to send them our recycling, but they had enough of that.
Yeah, they don't do that anymore.
We can do them like those collapsible totes, those hand totes, and with the lid, we could even take the lid off and just load everything on the top. That would be an idea.
Maybe we should send it to Packaging Corporation of America or somebody like that.
They'd run with it and we wouldn't see anything from it.
Yeah. Maybe we have less containers around. But anyway, that's all I have to report, Christian, on that item.
Okay, excellent. Well, in that case, I think the only thing we really had left was the question Cynthia had about. Why don't you go ahead and introduce that question, Cynthia?
You got cut off when you said what my question was.
Yeah.
I think you had sort of an interest in and then might be used in for the containers, right?
You're still being cut off. Somebody's talking over you.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I'm the only one who's in the room, but
I think
on the agenda there that you wanted to discuss the land usage for the container.
Right. I was just wondering, when they do buy the land, I'd like to be part, not me, but I'd like our neighborhood councils to be part of the discussion of what land they're going to be buying around our area. And then maybe if we could even identify and say, hey, we don't want you here, but we'll let you go there, and then find out how long they're going to be putting the containers there. Because the last one, Pat, didn't you say they bought that land? So it's going to be permanent containers from, if they're going to be doing it that way, whoever bought it, it's going to be a permanent container there. I mean, company there for the containers.
Well, maybe there's, if you want a little bit more of the backstory, I found out since then, the port actually owned a strip of land on the west side of Gibson Boulevard. And so the person who owned the bank that goes up onto the freeway on the other side of that strip of land was landlocked. He couldn't use it. And so, Yang Ming and APL, before Yang Ming, had their headquarters there right next to the police station. So the owner of the land came back in 2015, I think it was, and I have a link to a Board of Harbor Commissioners hearing on it, said, hey, sell me the land. I want to build a hotel on the land. And the port raised questions about traffic actually at that time with them. They didn't do an environmental study. And then later on, the port was approached in 2017 to do the sale of that land strip so it would unlock the land. And at that time, there was no proposal for how it would be used. And since then, it's gone through two sales. The backland part of it is, and now the owner is proposing the container storage lot.
What was the sale price approximately? Do you remember, Pat?
Well, for which? The port's property? For
Well, the spot that they're looking to put the containers.
I've heard three numbers. The number that I heard first was 300,000 for the port's little strip of land, and that doesn't surprise me because the port will sell, surplus land for the appraised value, and the little strip of land that was there couldn't take into account the benefit that it added to the backland, the landlocked parcel, or it would have been higher. And then I've heard two numbers, one of 3 million and one of 8 million for the formerly landlocked parcel.
Wow.
I don't know that. That's basically a gossip number. It may be revealed in the two port hearings. And I have the links to the two port items when it was heard by the Board of Harbor Commissioners, if you want them.
I think that would be good to send around just so we have some data. The one thing I wanted to raise during this part of the agenda was at the last meeting, other of our colleagues wanted, encourage us to meet with the refineries, right, that had issues, or wanted to have a discussion. And so I just wanted at least to make sure we weren't on the record for discussing if we did want to engage. I feel we've been open and people can talk to us, but if we wanted to have a specific special meeting, an invitation to the next meeting, not just to disregard that. So and for Christian's sake too, right? So we can at least say, yeah, no, we did take the suggestion. And Cynthia, I think you might have been one of those that thought that was a good idea.
Yes, a good idea. We used to work with the port a lot. We used to go to their meetings every once in a while.
Well, I used to
gave us attention for the comments for the Phillips 66 property, or the lease thing. So actually, if we wanted to make additional comments, we could. We have time now, I think, for the February meeting if we wanted to. Although I think the letter we did was pretty good, darn good. So.
Well, you invited them to come to the December meeting of the port committee meeting too, I remember. And it was actually listed on the agenda for December. They've had their opportunity too. There are still people who are writing comments out there. The Sierra Club, I understand, is doing one, can't remember who the other is. So there's opportunity. I suppose we could set something up so they can come to it. So we could have our comment in, and Phillips could come and we could provide a forum for them to talk to others if they had wanted information. I still think, in terms of environmental procedure, it's unusual to have I guess a real party in interest, because this is a port. The port is technically is the applicant for the environmental document. So if we were going to do something, I suppose we could ask the port to come and give an outline on their work.
Mm-hmm. I think the more the merrier. I just don't want to appear to the other members who don't spend the time we do, or read the minutes of this meeting, to feel, to end up losing a vote because they think we haven't done our work, right? I felt we kind of, though I was very proud of the work we did and agree that everybody gets to do letters, right? It's not like we're binding, and so for that comment to better inform us, several others seem to, then question the work on that. So to just be able to say, hey, they came and, we either agree to disagree, we take their point, but the letter's already out. And I really agree with Pat's point, to have the port there too, so, I feel we might be getting taken more seriously too, right? If we have the right people paying attention, we're more likely to get good results for our community.
Yeah. There were 13 different people that contributed to that letter. It was really amazing how many stepped up and had something to add to it.
Well, we can keep that letter going, right? By things happening, we could just keep updating people and using that letter to update them from that, right? Well, not that same letter, but stuff we add to the letter, maybe.
One other thing that you should know is that I understand the sentiment really, really well in terms of providing a forum for them to be heard. One of the consequences of it is that it delays the time when the port will start responding to the comments, because they won't respond to comments until the comment period is over. And they respond to all comments, and they do it in writing in a subsequent document, but they won't start on it until all the comment periods are over. So it has some delay impact by doing it. I think certainly if we want to be perceived as open and inviting and things like that, we should probably start with that on the day that they announce that the comment period is open.
Mm-hmm.
What were they saying was wrong with the letter? They never said, right? They just said
they kind of one of the things that we did in preparing for the comment letter is we asked for port files, all port files on going back really to 1919, and they gave us some, and one of the things they gave us was the port coordination letters with Phillips and the environmental consultants. One of the things that one of the people from Phillips said at the meeting that I noticed was he said that, look, we have test wells out there in coordination with the Southern California Regional Water Quality Control Board, and they test, and we have to report, and we have a protocol for reporting to them. What he didn't say is that they don't have test wells in that many places. They have them in the area along the wharf where they're going to be rebuilding the wharf. They don't have them back with the tanks that they're replacing. They don't have them in the area where the pipelines are going to be dug up and replaced. They don't have them on the old. If you look at the document that was issued, there's a blue area in the middle of the terminal area, and it is a heavily polluted area. It was occupied by Hooker Chemical and Olympic Chemical and LA Terminals. In fact, there is some existing litigation on LA Terminals for the cleanup. So I mean, they said yes, we have an agreement, but what they're testing is not very extensive. and it certainly doesn't address the cleanup that we were suggesting that they should do for the terminal area.
Oh, got it.
Yeah, and my concern is one comment or question can undo the work of 13 people, right? You know, it's very easy to shoot something down on a small point or, you know, lose support. And so, you know, just want to make sure we keep our legitimacy and, you know, going forward. So again, not arguing we do anything to change what we've done, but, you know, more parties at the table. And if this committee goes dormant for a while too, you know, maybe they just wanted to see how we operate it. So I'm quite pleased with our efforts.
Okay, I have another suggestion, Tom and committee. I think we could have done a better job of keeping the certainly the port committee up to date on what we were doing. It's hard when you've got a 30-day comment period. I mean, a 30-day comment period started and ended in between two port committee meetings. It was tough. I mean, that's why we ended up going to the executive committee and even though we got an extension, it still made it hard because there was so much work to do it. But certainly, if we could find a way, you know, we don't want to be violating the Brown Act by talking, you know, on the side too much, but certainly find a way so that the port committee felt like they could trust the effort too, and that they were participating in the effort would be good.
I will say, let me add this point though for background. I had initially invited Ken Dami, who gave the presentation or some of the presentation, to one of the committees to make the presentation. And he was on our committee in December. He could have come, but I was actually shopping it around to different committees because I said, maybe if he wants an in-depth discussion, a committee should really talk to him first before the full board, because kind of like what you saw happen, there was sort of like a doubt that was cast on whatever topic that had to do with Phillips 66. But if they had come to the committee, which they had the opportunity to do, I think it would have been in more good faith and in good terms. But honestly, I think that what they chose to do was kind of politically advantageous for them. So they had their opportunity, and I think that it's not a problem if we talk to them in the future.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I think that Port and Phillips both are concerned about the issue of how much contamination is out there, and they've kind of designed their project in a way that they won't disturb the contamination in the soil, and that's kind of why so much of the comment letter was aimed at, hey, if the contamination is there and it's riding on the water table, and there's rise and fall of the tides and other things, it's going to go sideways eventually and come out through the dikes into the water. So, you know, from my prior experience when I was a lawyer for the port, I actually worked on issues at that terminal with pollution, and the port actually had a policy for a while, and I don't know what happened to it, that when an oil terminal renewed a lease, it would be treated as a new project, and they would have to clean up, and then they would do an EIR on a new permit. You know, so that is what the comment letter asks for, is a new evaluation, you know, a full EIR and a cleanup by the old people. And Phillips knows it's dirty, by the way. When they took it over from Unocal, they negotiated a 30-day permit with a clause in it that says they're only responsible for any pollution they add to the terminal. They know there's plenty there.
But that's true, Pat. Then, since Rancho Holdings is selling, shouldn't they be doing another evaluation?
Well, it's not on port land.
Oh, okay.
The answer is yes, but it's not port land. Yeah, that's a whole other bag of
back
snakes.
to the topic now, which was the kind of land usage for the containers. I don't know, Cynthia, if you think we should reach out to the planning committee, or if we want to talk to kind of like a zoning person like Diana or someone else, because I think that probably has to do a lot with zoning as well, and what can legally go where in our community. And also we could touch on spot zoning, and that'd be like a whole nother issue.
Well, Diana's planning and zoning, so she'd be good to talk to.
Yeah, she was halfway out the door. She stopped when she heard
Her name. Yeah.
He's listening. She's standing by the door.
The door's open.
There she is.
You've been elected, Diana, to help us. For planning and zoning.
It's going to take some research on it.
Well, it would be, you know, it's a kind of a, because I'm thinking, you know, you're kind of proposing like a land use plan, sort of, you know, hey, if we're going to be facing this container problem for a while, maybe we should address it on a bigger basis and say, hey, you know, let's not screw up the whole neighborhood with a lot of spot, you know, storage places. So,
and that might be permanent.
What we might want to do, ask someone to give a really brief, super brief report, either to the full board or to our committee on the San Pedro community plan, because that has a lot to do with what you're talking about, Cynthia. And so not a lot of people know about the community plan and how it's kind of incorporated into the city plan. So that might be a good refresher.
Yeah, that and Wilmington's the community plan too. Yeah. You know, and Diana has really good, because she's the planning committee is always working on you know, development projects around and stuff like that. She's talking to the council office all the time, so she could maybe bring those points up with them and get you know, get some information and, you know, our concerns and get a report back from the council office.
Yeah, because what concerns me, even with the containers, a lot of times people start dumping in that area too, you know, and if they start dumping, then they're going to contaminate the land, and that's expensive to get fixed.
Oh, yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so for homework, I think so far we have that we're going to refine with the treasurer for the air sensor topic. And we're also going to look into this planning and zoning topic and how it relates to container storage. And then we're also going to move forward. Pat's going to move forward with that mitigation process, so we can also give him ideas. And I think that about covers it. Anything, if you come up with any specific items you'd like to discuss at the next meeting, you can always email me or email each other, and don't discuss the topic, but just in depth, but just kind of, do you want to talk about this? That's fine, I think. And then we'll have another meeting in February.
Yeah. Tom, would you mind if I asked how your mom's doing?
Oh, amazingly well. She had 17 pounds removed out of her. You know, a scar like this, but it was like triplets. And she's been released and is now in a different rehab place, walking around, drinking coffee, eating. So absolutely miraculous, right? So I don't know if it gave her another 18 months or 12 months, but you know, without removing that, she, you know, would probably be with her in her last days. So yeah, thanks for asking, Pat. It was, you know, rough week for her. Can you imagine having a 17-pound mass removed from your stomach? This is about a 100-pound woman. So, you know, she said it's like 3 of her kids in her. The doctor was like delivering triplets, and she was under the knife for 14 hours. So I want to buy the surgeon, you know, a couple massages. He had to ice his back. Hard to believe you can stay alive when you're opened up that way, but it's just amazing what they can do.
Just think what that was pushing on her organs in her stomach. That's,
you know, it was killing her. It was causing kidney to shut down. She, you know, wasn't able, the bladder was getting affected at the very end. Yeah. Everything was getting backed up. So no, I appreciate that. You know, I've been wanting to figure out how within the Brown Act I could use some of the tools I use in other committees. So I've just thrown a Google project tracking template. And I don't know if I can share a screen to share with you, but I was thinking maybe the next thing we look at, we could use this. I don't think this is communicating or breaking. It would just help us kind of track what we're doing so we all can be on the same page.
Yeah, I made you the co-host, so you could share that, I believe.
Okay, so
next-
this
the
is a
next
real
business
simple
session.
template.
Yeah, right.
And, you know, so we could do, you know, Phillips or whatever. You know, the main thing I was looking at what the tasks are, and from the few projects I've been involved in, first we request materials to do our research, then we have to review the research, and then we, you know, work on a draft letter, and then we've done the group writing session as a committee. And, you know, to give people an appreciation of what we're doing, we could just track, you know, when it's done, whoever's doing it, because you would all have access, could say 100%. You know, kind of an estimate to see how we're on track. The cost really doesn't make sense for us, but maybe the hours we spend even, you know, collaboratively. If Pat spends 3 hours, I spend 2 hours, because then we can just go back and say, you know what, we put combined 100 hours of work into this letter. So if there's, you know, one little nit with it, you know, would ask folks to say, you know, look at it for where it is, and would give us just a little bit of way to stay involved. We could all have edit privileges, and then others for transparency who just wanted to see what we're doing to track each project could view it, right, with an ability to comment or not even comment. And I just replicate that for each project. So that was one idea. And then the other idea, instead of how we did it last time for the draft letter, would be just to switch to Google Docs. That way we could all be in there at the same time and we could kind of see the document, because I know Pat ended up having to do a lot of work afterwards with the appendix, you know, or whatever, because we were emailing. And so that's not really a best practice for creation. We might actually want a document we can, you know, if I type right now and Pat types right now, it's instantaneous. I think Jason, you know, I'm not sure if you're following Cynthia the Advantage or Pat. I think Jason, you would get what I'm talking about.
Yeah, we do it all the time. Yeah.
And Chris,
Both of those ideas are good.
Yeah. Can we, if, you know, what we've talked about in the past, Tom and Jason, is a kind of a working group, because our time limits are always so tight because of the, you know, the environmental laws. They give you 30 days time to respond sometimes it's 90 days, but it's always tight. And so if we have a working group, we talked about the idea of a working group. Doesn't have to be Brown acted. Its work product would come back to whatever committee, whether it was in Central or Coastal or Wilmington or San Pedro, or I mean Northwest, or all four. You know, can we do a project tracking template that does all that?
yeah, with this we can just kind of, you know, build it, right, and we can talk about what's useful, what I should use. I just pulled one of the hundreds out there just as a sense to think of the steps, and that's just from, you know, what I've seen. So
Yes,
I would advocate we do that.
Even the money part is important, because if we start getting the sensors for particulate matter, maybe we want a big one and a small one, and we need different company prices, and that would help us to present it to Melanie.
Yeah, no, and so we can just, you know, name the tab that way. This one, and it maybe would make sense. So I could just rename this to, you know, instead of project 1, sensor project.
Yep, cool.
All right, so then all I need to do is I can look up the emails I have for each of you, and I'll just give everyone access, you know, via this with your email. So I can do that after the meeting for the members of the committee.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you very much for your work and your suggestion.
Okay. Yeah, I had a boss for a while. Every project we were working on, every assignment we had, every 2 weeks he'd sit down with us and say, "What have you done on this project since the last time? You know, what's the status of it?" He was a time management guy. That's what his degree, undergraduate degree was.
Wow.
Yeah,
Great.
so it was a good tool. I hated those conferences, but boy.
Right, and to me, the purpose is not to meet that much. It's to reduce meeting, right? So we're all on the same page. We're all looking at the same document, and we all kind of see what we're at. And then I'll play at this, you know, so we can even put what we're doing, because we won't all do every task. But you know, like even a group this session, right? If it's 5 people, 90 minutes, that's a lot of hours, you know, going into perfecting the document.
Yeah, and I think you know, it would be something for the entire neighborhood council too. Eventually, maybe we work on it for a while, and then the neighborhood council could do it for all of its other projects that they've got. You know. and land use and issues and everybody.
And I think we should definitely do this. And I think Pat's right. We should perhaps mention this to planning or give them the template and they could possibly use it. I don't know what planning currently uses, or I don't know if sustainability uses any kind of similar structure, but I think it would help out.
Yeah, I know Diana has one of her own that she uses just to keep up to date on, and to give reports on status of projects and things like that.
Yeah, I can take the best ideas from that. I think I've seen that from Alec or something. I kind of like that, but I don't have access to it.
I'm sure she'd share it with you.
Oh no, I'm sure I could probably go downstairs and tell Alec to share what he's seen, too. So, but we'll just refine. That's what I love about Google Docs. We'll just make it better. So Jason's got an idea, right? You can just edit, pop it in there, and we'll just expand it and trim where it doesn't make sense.
Good.
Okay, sounds great. Is there any last comment, or shall we adjourn now?
Adjourn. Motion to adjourn.
Yeah, a second. It's been fun.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded.
All right, good seeing you, everyone.
Good.
Oh, very good.
Thank you. Everybody have a good day.
Thanks, Christian.
Bye.
See you, Pat. See you, Cynthia, Jason.
Bye.
Bye now.
Bye.